On this episode of Fitness Junkeez,
I have so many guys that come over and they'll be like, hey, I'm blasting this and this and this, and they're running 5 or 6 different compounds. And it's not only dangerous, it's unnecessary. One, the first thing that everybody says it, nobody does it. Check with your doctor. Get your blood work, get your heart, make sure things are good, because there are so many genetic factors that we are seeing that people aren't familiar with. And that's playing a huge role in how many people are dying right now.
There's no shortcutting to sticking yourself and having this amazing body. You put in the work, both nutritionally and in the gym. People don't realize that counts for, 80% of it.
I don't go through the motions.
Right.
I'm always trying to find new ways to hurt myself. To the extent that I don't know if have you ever gone to that, like, when you mentally, you got to go to some dark places sometimes.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
man. Like, I do that in my normal workouts. I go to that place.
Enjoy the show. What's up, Fit Fam? This is Giovanni of Gio's Logic, your host of Fitness Junkeez. I hope this episode meets you in good health and fitness, and if not, I hope it inspires you to do something about it. I've been trying to get this guy on the show for about a year now. We're waiting for some big news in his world, but I just had to get him on because what he's doing with his body transformation is truly inspiring to me, so I want to share that with you guys. What's up, Reed?
Hey. How you doing, my man?
Good. Yeah, man, we met at Kilo Club probably about a year ago.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. March last year.
Yeah, when they opened back up in there, and yeah, that was interesting. And you were kind of, I think, accelerating this transformation that you're in right now, because what I've seen over the last year is amazing. What's going on with that, and how did that? What inspired that?
Well, first off, thank you. Awesome. I didn't do it necessarily thinking I was going to get noticed very much for it. So essentially, a little background on me. I grew up involved in working out, fitness, everything like that. Like I said, I started my first regimented program at 11 years old.
That's crazy.
Don't get me wrong. My dad wrote it, right? But he was a coach. He was a D1 athlete, and so
okay.
So there was some good momentum behind that. I was then involved in powerlifting growing up all through school. Then, long story short, went through a bunch of injuries. Fractured my back in 2018. But then, and I kept trying to stay with it. It was like I didn't want to give up lifting heavy. I didn't want to give up pursuing, the perma-bulk, because it's so easy to get caught up in that. So, and right around the end of October of 2020, had an accident where I was doing incline press, tore my pec. Now, I didn't actually tear the tendon. I sheared the muscle off the tendon. So it's got this weird form. Like when I flex it over, it's, you'll see it in some of my Instagram pictures and whatnot. Okay. But I decided after that, I was like, you know what? This is breaking me up, man. Let me figure out something. So went ahead and stopped the heavy lifting. Went ahead and really, I took about 2 months after that injury, pulled away from the gym. Did some cardio, but really gave my body a rest from everything. I mean, I stopped I wasn't even taking protein, creatine, my everything, supplementation, you name it. About 8 or 10 weeks, came back, just started doing cardio, and I was trying to monitor my heart health. I'd been a 300-pound guy, and I was like, okay, let's get my heart rate. Sorry. let's get my heart right, get things figured out there. So couldn't really do much as far as lifting at the time. It's amazing how when you tear your pec, doing anything
right
besides legs is feels impossible.
Right.
So, was doing a lot of cardio, about an hour a day, and started noticing weight coming down. Was feeling better. My vitals were coming across. Like everything was looking good, and I was like, you know what? Let's just change goals here. Obviously, it's like I want to find something motivating. So the heavy lifting's not going to really be a thing anymore. The shoving down tons of food to try and gain weight for no reason, really. There's no motivation there anymore. So I decided to kind of pursue more of an aesthetic look, longevity, measurable health, And yeah, found that more motivating. So just been doing that ever since.
So are you about to do a show? I mean,
No.
your body is looking show ready, pretty close.
Oh, thank you. No, not at all. I have no intentions of competing, actually.
Okay. Have you ever?
No.
Okay.
No. And my reasoning there, I got to tiptoe around it a little bit because I have a lot of respect for my friends that do compete. That is hard, man.
Yeah.
You know, and I've helped out with diets. I've done prep coaching. I've done that. I understand the process very well. I can get myself in that level of conditioning. But to actually go on a stage and just subject myself to being judged, for me, there's no motivation in doing it so that somebody else can tell me whether I did good enough or not. And I know that may sound so cliche, but I look at it and go, this has been such a big part of my life. You know, through the darkest times of my life, this has been my therapy. This has been the most consistent thing in my life I can always count on. You've heard the quote, 200 pounds of iron is always 200 pounds of iron. Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. Whether you got a crazy girlfriend or you're going through a divorce or you're changing your major,
right.
You know,
right.
There's that one thing that doesn't change.
Right.
And so for me, to try and turn it into a competition or make a competition out of it where I go stand next to other guys, and there's so many variables. You know, maybe he's got the genetics to have better abs than I do. Nothing I can do about that.
Nope.
And I've seen tons of guys that are in my same body fat area, and I'm like, he looks way better than me, right? Mm-hmm. I think it would kill the kind of the love I have for it to an extent, or it would put a bit of a damper on it. And so just don't want to do that.
I'm with you as well with that. I've never done one and never intend to, but I agree. It's why subject yourself to that if there's not like a good reason to.
Right. And I mean, obviously a good reason that's, you know, I got lots of friends that go, I've always wanted to compete. That's a good enough reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
go for it.
For me, it would, I mean, it's, I've thought about it. I've thought, should I do a show? I get asked all the time, you know, if I should.
Right.
And I can't find any desire in myself to do it.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of fun to have people be like, man, when are you competing? Never.
Right.
It's like, you just look like that. You just look like that year round. Well, now I do.
Right.
I never had abs before about a year and a half ago.
Right. Right.
So that's fun.
Chase, let's take a look at those before photos that he shared with us.
Oh man.
Now, when was this?
Okay. So let's see, when was this? Coming up on the, that was actually leading into 2020, right around the mid-November 2019.
Okay.
Would have been that, I believe.
And what was going on in your life right then?
So I was recovering from an injury.
The back injury?
Yeah. So it was a compression fracture, my L5.
Okay.
Did it during bent over barbell rows.
Nice.
I was like, man.
Which I never do, but
I love them. I still do them.
Okay.
I just don't do them like an idiot. I'm not jerking my back. And what had happened was, I remember that set so well, and I'm thinking I can do 2 more reps. Right. I go to pull one. I got kind of a good rep, and then the next one I was like, okay, and I jerked a little bit, and I just felt it crunch. That was it. Done. And I couldn't feel, like my toes started tingling. I couldn't walk well. Like. I mean, my wife had to help me get my shoes on, tie my shoes, things like that. Like using the bathroom, 300 pounds with that, man.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a rough period of time. You can see my picture in my face, and that is just depressing, man.
So when you went into that time period, what what happened to your lifestyle basically? You weren't able to exercise. Mm-hmm. That's a huge piece out of your life.
This is the back time, or the
right when you were the back, and then the depression of not being able. Did you like just start eating crap, or did you?
No.
Did you try and stay on program?
So I was, how can I explain it? My diet back then was awful. Okay. It was just, and it was honestly, it was despite the education I had, it was just a misunderstanding of what I was doing. So for me, what I thought was eating healthy was eating healthier, or trying for healthy options, but not necessarily healthy when you're still trying to shove down that much food. Lifestyle, let's see, at the time I was working 2 jobs in restaurants. So I was a server. Mm-hmm. So couldn't carry trays, couldn't do much with that.
Wow.
Depression got pretty bad. I mean, I've always dealt with depression off and on since I was a kid. So that was an especially rough time. And to be honest, man, it's just, when you get to that level that you feel helpless to an extent. It's like, man, I'm this big guy. I'm a 300-pound dude. A week ago, I was, picking up 500-600 pounds for reps.
Right.
Now I got to have my wife. I can't bathe myself.
Wow.
I got to have my wife help me put my shoes on.
Yeah.
Or help get socks on me, or help get pants. It was just, that was it was a wake up call.
Right. Yeah, it's so many people, and I hate to say this, use it as an excuse, injuries. And it's also real. Like if you have a back injury, it's gonna take some time to recover from that, and you need to feel some kind of way. You need to have that feeling of, this is not good for me, my spirit or whatever, and hopefully that motivates you to come back.
Right.
Was there something in that depression, in that period of your life, where it was like it snapped and you said, I'm coming back?
Well, mentally for me, it was never that I had left. I was always mentally still involved, which I think is part of having an obsessive personality like I do have, is you can never really let go of something.
Right.
So it's like, am I coming back? It's more like, am I able to perform what I wasn't able to perform? I always tried.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I'd be sitting there with an inflamed back, hurting, and I'd be on a bike. I'd be trying to do something to an unhealthy degree. I mean, you've seen that.
Yeah.
And so it was the first wake up call in a series of wake up calls that needed to take place for me to actually take ownership of my situation and my health. Is take a step back and go, man, you're not doing yourself favors. I was like, at the time, what was I? I guess 29. Mm-hmm. I looked like hell. Mm-hmm. I had the body of a 50-year-old. And it was I needed a handful of wake up calls, rough ones.
Right.
So.
And so you were lifting super heavy, and now, you're talking about like 6 to 8 reps type of heavy, or heavier, or?
So I like, and this is my craziness, I like heavy weight as many times as I can.
Okay.
So for example, I was doing pulls this week and I hit 405. And now these were racks, so I pull them from just below the knee. So the focus is on like glute, hamstring, spinal erectors, so it's not full off the ground, but I'm like, okay, I'm trying to see if I can get it for 50 reps. Mm-hmm. So I hit 30.
50?
Yeah, so I got 35 this week. I'll record it for you and send it to you sometime.
Wait. What exercise are we talking about?
Just rack pulls. We're not talking straight from the ground. We're talking about like mid fibia tibia area, mid shin height.
Okay.
It's because when I go to pull off the ground, because of previous injuries, I can compromise my back more.
Right.
So if I go to pull off the ground, I'll use a hex bar.
Okay.
So using a barbell, I'll lift it up a little bit so I can, I still engage the same muscles, but I'm not compromising by bending all the way over and compromising that injury.
You did 35 reps.
Yeah, so 35 of 405. And the goal is to get up to 50, because for me, I go 405 is a great working weight. I used to load 8 plates on each side of it and do it. I've pulled that,
right.
that kind of way. And I look back at that and I go, man, back then it was like, yeah, this is cool. And now I look at it, I'm like, how did I not break more?
Right.
And I know these injuries that I've had, they'll come back and get me later. I'll feel them when I'm old.
Right.
So right now I'm like, okay, certain movements, like presses and stuff like that. I like 225 combine weight. It's how many times can we do that? That's more where my focus is now, instead of the heavy weight for low reps. If I can't manhandle a weight, then I probably should be careful or stay away from it to an extent.
Got it. And then you talked about your education. What's that part of your journey, and how does that affect your training and where you're going now? Okay,
let's see. So I went to school for biochemistry. My main focus in that just being like human hormone function. It was really biochemistry as pertaining to humans. Mm-hmm. I switched my major around a few times. I went to molecular biology, nutrition, kinesiology, then back to biology. Back to biochemistry. Really, my goal was to understand the science and chemistry behind bodybuilding and athletics. I mean, it's like, how do certain foods affect my body? What if I'm going to eat? I know, okay. So people say, for example, what kind of protein? What's your favorite protein? It's like, why would I eat beef over chicken? There's those kinds of things to understand. Or with hormones, understanding the differences between the different hormones generated in my body, how to manipulate them, what to stay away from, how to avoid bro science. In my routine, every day where I am obsessive, very, very obsessive, I will like calculate down to micrograms for things like micronutrients. I design most of my own products that I take anyways. I'll have to show you my kitchen. When you walk into my kitchen, I built a pantry on the wall. So it's 8 feet long by 8 feet high, bunch of shelves that are about 10 inches apart, and it's just loaded with singular ingredients. And so probably 4 or 5 times a day, I'll go into my kitchen with my gram scale, and I will measure out my supplements that I make. And I like to buy things for, what's more bioavailable. Right. So when you say how much does your education play into like what I'm doing now, man, an obscene level. I still take notes on everything I make to see how it affects me. Really, it just helps to better understand and fuel the obsession that I've created out of fitness or health or anything human development.
Okay. Let's dig a little deeper in there because, whatever you're doing, it's working.
And I don't mean to come off and sound too complicated because I swear to God, it's really not.
Right. But you're actually simplifying it by creating a brand.
Right, yes.
Do we have a brand name yet?
Freakology.
Freakology, love it. Yeah. Love it. And, you talk about bioavailability in the products and probably the foods that you take. Can you kind of, I know nutrition and training is very individual, but let's talk about your goal, like we were talking about earlier, is body composition and longevity.
Right.
What are some of the core things that you believe in to do that in general? And I know specifically people would have to come to you and go, these are my specific issues, help me out. But like in general, what are the pillars of, is it like, make sure you get enough red meat, make sure you, exercise, cardio. What is your plan?
And we're talking about in my personal life, not okay.
Yeah.
So probably the most important concepts or principles I would say along the way to me achieving my goals, what I've learned so far. Honestly, sleep is huge. I say that and then I'm terrible at it.
You see that book? Have you read that book?
I have not.
Got to read that book.
Why We Sleep. And it's actually, I don't stay asleep for very long. I struggle to stay asleep for more than about 4 hours.
Okay.
To the extent that I don't know if you're a fan of edibles.
I like edibles.
I'll use them to go to sleep. But I'll eat the whole bag because I have a super high tolerance, which creates its own difficulty there. So my wife last night, I pick up some edibles, and I do that every now and then. I'll do it because I don't make too much of a habit out of it. But it's like I don't need to take a 10-hour. I don't need to sleep for 10 hours every night. But sometimes I'm like, I need this.
Right.
And so I'll eat a whole bag of edibles, hang out with her for a couple of hours, and then just crash.
Right.
But usually I get 4 hours a night.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's how important it is.
Oh, totally. But
it's kind of right now that's just not possible. Is it because your mind is going? Is it
there's been a lot of changes happen with me in the last year, whether it's been just how my body functions, feels, and so I'm still just trying to regulate some of these processes. I'm a high anxiety person, so when I lay down, yeah, my mind starts cranking. I start thinking, what am I doing tomorrow? Did I complete everything to be prepared for the morning? You know, but so sleep, but without getting myself going too far on a tangent, like sleep, I would say is probably one of the most, if not in the top three, most important factors for muscle growth and fat loss. Like, you know, I'll take naps throughout the day. I try to get rest, but it's,
Right.
you know, I need to do better there, and I'll figure out a way to do better.
Right.
Because you can't replace it.
No.
Nutrition, obviously. You know, all the working out in the world is and rest in the world isn't going to do you much if you're not eating properly. And would you like me to go into a little bit of detail on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So the biggest thing that I think I've seen, where like the top mistake or misunderstanding that I see in anybody involved in bodybuilding or fitness is always protein consumption. How much and when and what kind. You know, I mean, for example, I'm just going to throw it out there. If we're going to compare plant protein to animal protein, that's like saying a Ferrari and a Corolla are the same thing.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
You know, if we're going to compare, okay, for example, I hear a lot of people talk about whey protein like it's this scammy thing, and I'm like, the bioavailability of whey protein, it's literally probably the best option you have out there to get protein into your body. If you just need to absorb your 35 or so, about 35 grams to turn on muscle protein synthesis, it'll last for roughly 2 hours. Protein powder is great because it'll clear your stomach, meaning by the time muscle protein synthesis is done, you're ready to eat again to turn it back on. But I would pull nutrient or my protein from other sources because you have so many more micronutrients available in something like beef, which I'm a huge proponent of beef.
So am I.
Oh man, when I hear people say, "Oh, got to be careful with the red meat," why?
Yeah.
Let's actually just let show me what's wrong with red meat, because I look at, like, I started eating almost exclusively meat. I mean, red meat makes up, I would say, 90% of my meat consumption.
Yep.
And for somebody who eats a pound and a half of meat, about a pound and a half of meat, or maybe 2 pounds a day, you'd expect I'd have high cholesterol. No.
Yep.
I have low blood pressure. My resting heart rate's pretty low. All my vitals, everything, I'll get my blood work done, and I'll be doing it again here, hopefully in about 2 months. Because this whole process, it's like I want to see not only how I look on the outside, but how do I function on the inside.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Let's see. The biggest, like I was saying, the big thing about protein consumption where I see mistakes, everybody eats too much, way too much protein. You need to eat enough protein to turn on muscle protein synthesis, which is usually around 35 grams absorbed. You know, realize there's going to, and that's where bioavailability comes into play.
Okay.
Is just because I'm eating what on paper would be, let's say, 35 grams of protein from a steak. Okay, let's say you give me like a 6-ounce steak, which is going to be between 35 and 40 grams. I may not absorb all of that. You know, maybe I need to give myself 45 grams. So then it's like, yeah, I'll absorb more than 35, but by no means do I need to sit down and eat 60 or 70. And what you find with guys that do that is you're eating 60, 70 grams of protein. Everybody knows your body doesn't need that much, but they're thinking more is better. Really, it just takes extra time to digest because protein takes a long time to break down.
Right.
Does stress your kidneys unnecessarily, and it doesn't amplify. People need to get that through their head. More protein does not amplify muscle protein synthesis. It doesn't mean more muscle. It just means your body has to perform more work until you can turn it back on. You know what I mean? That right there, just understanding that concept completely changed the game for me.
So how do you get in 2 pounds of protein? How many meals do you do?
So I eat every 2 to 2.5 hours.
Okay.
It really, that's my diet rule. Like, people go, how many times do you eat a day? It depends on how long I'm awake.
Right.
Maybe I eat 6 meals, maybe I eat 9. I just try to roughly every 2 to 2.5 hours, I try to consume 35 to 45 grams of protein to keep muscle protein synthesis activated. The more you keep that activated throughout the day, the more muscle you'll build, the more fat you'll burn.
Okay.
Because as you increase your lean body mass percentage, it's going to increase your metabolism.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So
Right.
the two go hand in hand there.
Right.
I do alternate meals. So my first meal will usually be a solid food meal. Like you'll see my breakfast videos. It's always something really, really nutrient dense. So I usually go eggs with beef, and then a carb source. I'll try and use like potatoes or a really quality bread. Then my next meal about 2.5 hours later is just going to be liquid. And that's just to give digestion a break. Mm-hmm. If you're slamming beef 6 times a day, man, you're going to struggle.
Right.
But if I'm eating beef 3 or 4 times a day and I'm having usually 3 to maybe 4, but usually 3 shakes a day. And we're not talking crazy shakes. I'm talking the one I have in my bag. It's 60 grams of carbs from oats and then 40 grams of whey protein isolate. That's it.
Okay.
So it's a meal replacement. But yeah. Did I go over that okay or anymore? Do you have any questions?
What about other carbs than potatoes? And are you doing any avocado, or what's your fat intake like?
Oh, okay. So if we go with carb, I'll hit the carb question first.
Okay.
So carb sources, I'm very wide here, but every day I eat potatoes and rice. And cream of rice is my go-to pre-workout because it digests so well. I can make it taste like whatever I want. Okay. I usually eat rice with my beef, or I'll do russet potatoes. Lately I've been doing hash browns, or I'll cube them and put them in an air fryer. Mm-hmm. Fruits. I eat a lot of bananas. So this is stuff I eat every single day, everything I'm listing here. Okay. I do eat potatoes. I eat rice. I'll have fruits. I have water-based fruits like apples and oranges and pineapple almost every single day. Bananas, I will do at least 1 banana a day. Okay. One thing I go really heavy on, and I can't really say it's in a carb, it just are the greens. Mm-hmm. I don't put a lot of them in my videos. I usually add them into juices or smoothies, or you can take 3 or 4 cups of spinach, and if you cook that, man, it's going to turn into a little bitty.
Right.
It's so easy to add it,
Right.
But I do try to keep a lot of greens in there. As far as fat sources, like you were asking, avocado all day long avocado. Yeah. I also supplement with fish oils. Okay. I take 18 to 24 caps of fish oil a day.
What's that total of milligrams?
18 to 24 grams, because they're 1 gram caps. And they're for different reasons. One being blood solubility. The other, though, is you ever noticed how? Okay, I'm sure you've heard of like bodybuilders pre-competition. They'll eat it, a lot of times they would eat fish because it gives them that thin, dry look. Right. Fish oil does the same thing. Got it. When these guys come up to me and they go, how are you so dry? How many carbs do you eat a day? About 1,000 grams. They go, well, how do you have a dry look? And it's the fish oil. If I take the fish oil out, then I'll get the soft look. If I keep it in for about 3 days, very little water retention, subcutaneous water retention.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
And it's heart healthy, increases blood solubility. Yeah. Also, I take a high dose like that because it does help a lot with depression. Okay. So, just benefits.
And so, what's your total calorie?
Between 6,000 and 6,500.
Wow. So what kind of training do you do to make all that food go to work? Like how long? And
I would say maybe 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay. I'll do an hour of cardio. Last week and this week, I've actually been taking off on cardio. Okay. If I ever feel like I hit some kind of a plateau as far as staying lean or staying dry, then I'll pull my cardio out for a couple of weeks instead of trying to add more in. Mm-hmm. My goal is, what can I do that's maintainable? I want to have a lifestyle that I can, if I want to travel, if I want to have a life, let's get real. Right. I can do that. Right. So yeah, an hour of cardio a day, that's a lot. Yeah. And lifting, my lift can take anywhere. I can usually do my workout in 30 minutes, but I usually take about an hour and 15. Okay. Just because give myself enough rest periods that I could actually really push that effort and get something out of it. So I would safely say maybe 2 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week is about it.
And 2 things. What kind of cardio are you doing? Steady state or? Yeah. Okay.
I'll use bike or stair mill. Okay. And the only reason I'll switch over to bike is I've got some rough arthritis in my feet. Mm. So sometimes walking on a stair mill is just miserable, for an hour. Yeah. So I keep my heart rate around 120 to 130. Okay. I go for an hour. What I've noticed there is I don't just deplete all my glycogen. I just depleted a fair amount in my lift, and I do cardio immediately after lifting. Okay. I used to separate it, but I found I don't believe that's necessary to do. So I'll do my lift. That's where I use most, the glycogen's going to
Right.
fuel that.
Right.
Then I'll hop on the on to do my cardio, and I do slow cardio with the idea that I don't want to just keep draining my glycogen. I'd rather
Burn some fat.
burn fatty acids, and I don't need to sprint to do that. I don't need to tear down my muscle to do that. I don't need to make my recovery worse.
Right.
And I've had a lot of people say, well, you need to keep your heart rate at 145, 150. Say what you want. Doesn't I don't have to. I'm sure it works. I mean, I know it's going to work, but it's harder, and I don't have to do it. So.
Right. And then with all the carbs that you're eating, do you have a plan with that? Do you time them around your workout?
Yes,
Okay.
everything's timed.
Okay.
No, I don't use insulin. That's always the biggest question I get is how much insulin do you take? None.
Right.
I've messed around with insulin. Not the biggest fan. Creates a lot of inflammation, and it's not very safe. So I wouldn't advise that. I wouldn't advise anything, actually. Let's get straight. So as far as carbs go, so let me see here. I go through timing. So I'll give you an example of a day. Let's say I'm going to hit the gym at at noon or 1. We're going to go around that time. So I'll wake up probably around 8 that morning, have my first meal, which is going to be somewhere around 150 to 200 grams of carbs, 40 to 45 grams of protein. And I'll do minimal fats besides fish oil. So I usually have 6 caps of fish oil with that. I'll take my multivitamin and my digestive enzymes, which I take with every meal. Huge on digestive enzymes. Then I'll move around. Like I'll eat that, and I usually move around for a few minutes, just kind of because it helps to get things going through you. 2 hours later, I will have cream of rice, 100 grams of cream of rice with a banana, and I'll usually put in like 2 to 3 tablespoons of fruit preserves, because it's usually no sugar. There's very little sugar added in those, but you get a good fruity taste. Mm-hmm. So that meal will have, again, 140, 150 grams of carbs, everything I add into it. And I'll have that with usually 35 to 40 grams of whey protein isolate. So already I'm sitting around between 350 and 400 grams of carbs. Just depends. Sometimes that cream of rice meal will have a lot more.
Right.
Depends on how I'm feeling.
Right.
You ever have those days you're like, man, I feel like I need more carbs, or I feel like I want more to push through this workout.
Yep.
But I try to get between 300 to 500 grams of carbs in those 2 meals before my workout. I'll work out. My post-workout is going to be not a super high carb drink, actually. It's going to have 60 grams of carbs, 40 grams of protein. But then about an hour and a half after that is when I'll eat. And that's going to be, once again, we're going to look at beef, most likely rice, because it digests pretty quickly. Fats will be minimal in that because I want quick, good digestion and absorption. So probably around 45-ish grams of protein and another 200 to 220 grams of carbs in that meal. So I'm already sitting around 600 to 700 grams of carbs. And it's 3 in the afternoon. So to make up another 300 to 400 grams,
it's easy.
All my meals have between, like, just my general throughout the day meals are going to have 80 to 120 grams of carbs.
Okay.
And
then what's your theory or education backup to the kind of starving cardio and intermittent fasting and any of that kind of stuff?
So I think intermittent fasting has 2 names. The other one is just skipping breakfast.
Right.
And as far as I'm being facetious there.
Right.
It's really, that's how I look at it. It's skipping meals. You're still consuming the same amount of calories inside of the same waking window.
Right.
Maybe if you feel better being fasted, go for it. If your body feels better, cool, do it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen research showing benefits for fasting versus for not fasting. I've also seen benefits for having high nutrient content levels in your blood versus, you know what I mean? So,
right.
But fasted versus not fasted cardio is one I've touched on a little bit before, and I don't think there's a difference.
Okay.
The reason is you're still burning the same amount of calories. Here's why I think happens when people do fasted cardio is they wake up, they get themselves ready, they go to the gym, they do their fasted cardio, they come home, they eat their first meal. Sound about right? Mm-hmm. So what you're really doing And by that time, let's say you get up at 8, like I do, you do it, you come home, you're not eating till 10 instead of 8.
Right.
So you're actually, from what I would dare say, you're just consuming less calories throughout the day due to eating at a later period.
Right.
So you're not having those initial calories, and then you're burning calories on top. You're not necessarily burning more fat because you didn't have anything in your stomach. You're still burning the same calories you would whether you were carrying food in your stomach or not.
Now, the science, though, of depleting your glycogen after, let's say, you go to bed at 11, you wake up at 7, so that's whatever hours, that's 8 hours, and then you go to the gym, you work out, so 20 minutes or so into the workout, you've depleted probably most of your glycogen, and then what is your body using for energy? Isn't it burning fat or?
Yeah, so you're going to have gluconeogenesis is what's going to occur.
Right.
Your body breaks down, which is basically the formation of new glucose, which is going to come from fat and amino acids.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's going to occur. I don't necessarily know that that's going to occur at any faster rate, whether you have food in your body or not. I do know that if I don't have food in my body, then my body has to pull from my tissue reserves to get those amino acids. So now my muscle tissue is on the menu.
Right.
So there's another, there is one reason for me to go, I think I'll avoid fasted cardio.
Okay.
Unless I'm using a mitigating agent like something anti-catabolic. Which honestly, have you seen not orally available, but injectable L-carnitine? Mm-mm. Amazing stuff. Way too overpriced, but phenomenal. I mean, orally available L-carnitine does virtually nothing. It's 8 to 10% available when you take it. So you have to take 10 to 12 grams of it to even get a viable amount.
Right.
And by that point, you're already creating toxicity in your organs.
Right.
But now, if you're going to do fasted cardio, I would dare say that the intramuscular administrations of L-carnitine would make a huge difference there, because what that does is prioritizes fatty acid for energy metabolism in your body. So your body's going to directly pull from fat instead of. So I would dare say that would mitigate some muscle tissue loss.
Interesting. And you said it's really expensive. Like,
it's overpriced. You can, if you learn it, like, for example, I know how to make my own.
Okay.
I'll go on to usually just like a whole ingredient supplier. Mm-hmm. There's a couple actually here in Vegas. You can just buy the raw amino acids. And essentially to get it, you would get L-carnitine, not like acetyl L-carnitine or anything, but L-carnitine. I would combine it with purified and filtered, what is that water? Distilled water, like a 1% of benzoyl alcohol. Run that through a filter. Well, I'd apply heat, run that through a filter. Good to go. And most people would find the most benefit out of probably 500 milligrams a day. Totally safe to do as long as it's done appropriately. I wouldn't suggest to everybody to go make your own.
Right.
Unless you have, what you're doing, or you have, that to each your own risk on that one. But it's a doable process. I just feel that companies charge way too much for it, as opposed to what it's actually worth, what it does, and the real cost of it, just overpriced stuff.
So back to your calories in, are you a calories in, calories out philosophy guy? Meaning, you're basically, I can't see basically based on your size and the amount of workout you're doing that you're going to be in a deficit. So you're in a growth phase. Am I correct?
That's where it gets weird.
Okay.
Because I am in a caloric surplus. I have been for about a year, but my body fat percentage has been going down steadily.
That's crazy.
So
how does that happen?
So that falls back to this whole thing I've been doing is an experiment. I have a motive. I do want to write a series of programs based off of this. So there's a lot of research I'm doing here, but that's what trips people up, is how do you lose fat in a caloric surplus? The idea is you feed the muscle, so your muscle is recovering, and you're giving it the carbohydrates at the right time, and you're fueling it at the right time. And then the increase in lean muscle mass increases your metabolic requirement or function or rate,
right.
Which that is what is going to result in more fat loss to me. Hopping on and doing my hour of cardio, that activity right there just increases my daily metabolic need. It doesn't necessarily burn fat in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go through my whole day, and it's like my workout. I do work out very intensely. I don't go through the motions.
Right.
I'm always trying to find new ways to hurt myself. To the extent that I don't know if have you ever gone to that, like when you got to go to some dark places sometimes.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
man. Like I do that in my normal workouts. I go to that place, and
right.
And so it's like I do push. I'm trashed, and then when I hop on cardio, it's just the goal behind all the exercise is to increase overall caloric need throughout the day. So then when I have a surplus like that, I'm not eating 6,000 calories at once. I'm timing it as a portion is going to go to fueling this workout and then recovering this workout. And so timing plays a huge role. I think a lot of times people are in too big of a hurry to get results. They don't want to give their body time to go through the necessary adjustments,
right?
Which is another thing I'm doing. It's like if I switch to another food, I know maybe I'm going to be bloated for 2 weeks. Let your body acclimate to it, then see how it responds. And all that, it's the same thing with exercising and whatnot, if that makes, sorry.
No, it makes a lot of sense. So we talked a little bit earlier about the other types of supplements that you could be using with, creating this amazing physique. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, like exactly what?
Like you talked about testosterone.
Right.
Yeah.
So a common misunderstanding that I see, or perhaps just mistake I see with people when they get into any of the PED use, the first thing that everybody says it, nobody does it. Check with your doctor. Get your blood work, get your heart, make sure things are good, because there are so many genetic factors that we are seeing that people aren't familiar with. And that's playing a huge role in how many people are dying right now. But after you've gotten that done, it's important for people to understand how hormones work, what effects they actually have in your body. I have so many guys that come over and they'll be like, hey, I'm blasting this and this and this, and they're running 5 or 6 different compounds. And it's not only dangerous, it's unnecessary. If you would understand how if people would take a little bit of time and learn what is sexual hormone binding globulin, what does it do, and how can I satisfy it so it's not an issue. I would say to anybody who's curious about how to use PEDs or wants to get some insight, your first question should be, what is sexual hormone binding globulin, what does it do, and how do I get rid of it as a variable, or how do I satisfy it? Then start learning about the other compounds and things like that. Sexual hormone binding globulin, it eats up, like I said, like 30 to 70-ish roughly % of the free testosterone in your body, which people just administer higher and higher dosages of that. When really, if you can satisfy that globulin, then whatever you're taking is going to have 2 to 3 times the effect. So it's amazing how when you're running a TRT dosage, or using a prescription, if your doctor isn't totally gypping you there, what you can actually do to your body.
Right.
You don't need very much gear at all.
Right.
Maintaining your testosterone in around 900, which is the higher end of healthy and average, I want to say. Depends. That changes every year too. It seems like.
Right.
Seems like the medical average for that is going down annually.
Right.
At a rate of about 1%. Since 1985.
Right.
No plans there. I feel like that if people would educate themselves, we'd have a much safer environment.
Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be looked at so much as taboo.
Right.
Because when people bring that subject up, it's like, oh, what are we going to talk about?
Right.
What's going to happen? Who's cheating?
Right.
And it doesn't need to be that way.
Right. Well, see, and like someone like you that puts in the work, there's no shortcutting to sticking yourself and having this amazing body. You put in the work, both nutritionally and in the gym. People don't realize that counts for I don't know, 80% of it or more?
I know lots of guys. I know lots of. How many of us know know a dad or have a dad who's, or, you know, somebody? I'm not saying my dad. My dad, he actually goes to the gym consistently, but you know, how many of us know somebody that's been on TRT for 10 years and doesn't look like it? Obviously, it's not a miracle drug,
Right.
You know, but it does get a lot of people see that, and then I think they start pushing these heavy dosages. And I mean, we've had in the last month, how many people have we lost? You know, we're talking, it's, you know, what, 3 or 4 in the last month that we know of. You know, I feel like it would be really good if they would bring back a lot of that education or research on those compounds, though, because there are some amazing things that they can do from just a medical perspective.
Right.
You know, you look at like things like muscle wasting diseases, burn victims, AIDS patients. You know, I mean, for example, what was it? I can't remember what show I saw it in. But they were interviewing an AIDS patient that they'd put on a cycle of I want to say it was Anavar, oxandrolone, and his T cell went from, he had like 1 or 2, and he went up to, I don't remember what number, but it's incredible increase in immune function.
Right.
You know, there's a lot there that we should be allowed to study, we should be allowed to learn about.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're not, and so many people end up harming themselves in that process of trying to learn about it. So.
Yeah. So what is your brand, and talk more about that? Like, why did you go down that road? What's been the good stuff, the troubling stuff? When can we see the brand out? And, you know, I know it's not exact science either, but talk a little bit about what's coming.
Okay. So actually, I might have a container in that bag.
Ooh, okay.
I can't remember if I threw it in that bag or not. Pardon my little interruption here.
No worries.
Yeah. So this is a mock label, but it's not so it'll be something similar to that. I just had to throw it on whatever container I could. But that'll be like our pre-workout.
Okay.
And then there's going to be changes take place. That was
right.
months ago. Right now we're actually waiting to hear, we're working with the FDA right now to get an approval on this part of our label.
Okay.
They're not exactly the easiest organization to work with, so that's why I've been waiting for I'm at 8 months now.
Right.
Going back and forth with them. But we're starting out with 2 products. We'll have our pre-workout as well as our whey protein.
Okay.
And that's just for beginning. Obviously, those are the 2 most commonly sold products you'll find out in the fitness market. So.
Right.
It's just a great way to kind of build up a little bit of capital and get our name going.
Right.
And most people that buy a pre-workout also buy protein. So.
Right.
Really, though, we're more excited to get into products, more niche products that we'll be coming into. You know, things like actual anabolic agents, digestive agents, things focusing on regulating gut and mental health. There's some focus we've got there as well. I mean, fat loss is fun. But everybody's got a fat burner. Doesn't excite me too much, but you know, we've got some good formulas we've been working on there.
Right.
Luckily, during the last 8 months of this downtime, it's been a lot of time to be able to research some new concepts and ways to approach supplementation that we're hoping to bring to the industry. I grew up one of those kids that, you know, I was buying my whey protein and my cool whatever pre-workout looked like the best one in 2008, and you know, I was like, this is going to do it, and never got results from it. And
right.
Yeah, we've all been that kid,
right? And
I always wanted to formulate and start a supplement company since I was that kid, and then getting to learn a little bit more about the industry, seeing how scammy a lot of it is. Reading the formulas on the backs of some of these products and realizing, man, did anybody whoever put this formula, did they even care what it does to people? It's not going to work.
Right.
You know, I mean, you look at the backs of so many products and you realize it's got high caffeine and high beta alanine because they want you to feel that jittery, and they want you to feel a tingle. And if you feel that, then you'll believe that product's working. Right. You know, but it's got no creatine. It's got no nutrient delivery system. It's just a stimulant and a feel good, you know? Right. And so our big focus is my partner and I, we want to get rid of that, or as much as we can put a dent in that.
Right.
His background is medical bioscience. My background, biochem, and a handful of other, little studies.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to use everything we can to formulate products that will be effective. There'll probably be, some of them will maybe be a little bit, more premier products. You'll definitely get what you pay for with it. But yeah, our initial image or our initial mission or vision really is to just try to bring products where every product is the best thing that we could put on the market. Taste and things like that, those are high priorities, but they come in second to actual function of the product.
Right. Right.
I mean, we've got some products out there. It tastes great, but they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. I'd rather drink some nasty Kool-Aid than I know is going to work.
Right.
And so, any questions on that? I don't want.
No. The one I have marketing background, so I start to think of well, you're not a professional bodybuilder, so you don't have that cachet.
Right.
I'm guessing with that name, Freakology, you're targeting bodybuilders. So what's the kind of hook, or have you gotten to the point of why is the industry that you're targeting going to gravitate towards your product?
Because the idea is not so much that we're looking for freaks, but more we're in the business of making them.
Right.
Products and just the supplementation, that'll be a part of our company, but we have other aspects that we'll be bringing into it. We do want to teach people. We want to educate. We want to inform. We'll be providing a lot of services to people to help to further their progress on that in their physical endeavors. Let's see. Did that answer that question?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's more. It's kind of like a fitness lifestyle brand almost. It sounds like.
Perhaps, and I got to be careful before I commit to saying anything like that, because I haven't totally gone over that with my partner and just finalized it. But we've talked about our future plans, and it goes right along with that. So
yeah,
and he's actually the brains in marketing. He'll talk to me about it, and I'm like, man, I'm so far away from marketing. I grew up on a farm in back east in a small town up in Utah, and I'm like, hey, if you know how to get out there and let people see it, cool. I'll just make formulas.
Right.
No.
Right.
That's me. But,
okay.
But no, I feel like, for example, when I did coaching for people, and I loved coaching, as far as like diet coach, prep coach, whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I never liked having the same client for too long, because I'm like, why aren't you getting the hang of this yourself?
Right.
Why are you paying me $300, $400 a month?
Right.
And I'm literally, at this point, I'm not doing anything for you.
Right.
And so what I would say to people is, I'm like, look, I'll take you for 3 months. You should be able to figure out how this works after 3 months.
Right.
So if I would bring somebody on for fat loss, here's your program, and I'm going to explain why this works so that you can use it, and down the road you don't need a coach.
Right. I
feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like anybody really needs to have a coach long term in bodybuilding. You need somebody. It's like, go to school.
Right.
You let your coach be your teacher. And if he's not willing to teach you, then why invest in him?
Yeah.
So yeah, we as a company we'll provide we'll have articles, we'll have information that goes out there to help people not just take our products but make the most of them.
Yeah. And so kind of changing gears here, how do you feel about the bodybuilding world? And, we talked earlier about looking good on the outside, but not knowing what the hell's going on inside. Right. There's a lot of that in bodybuilding.
So much.
Yeah.
As we're seeing right now, man, I think back about some of these guys that I've watched for years, I mean, John Meadows. I don't know, that was heartbreaking. Right. It's always heartbreaking, Right. But you look at some of these guys, and it's like you see the sweetheart that they were, the women, you see the wonderful people they are. And unfortunately, their pursuit of this perhaps led them down that road. A lot of times you're finding out that there was genetic variables, but the bodybuilding lifestyle doesn't exactly promote, it doesn't exactly keep you from running into health issues. If you've got, I feel like if you've got some, poor genetics in an area, you're probably going to find them in this lifestyle.
Right.
Relating to things like heart health or issues like that. So the current state of bodybuilding, from somebody who doesn't compete, so take me with a grain of salt, scary is actually the word I would use, because we're losing people that had no idea. I mean, you know, with the exception of a couple, bless his soul, man, I'm trying to think of everybody. I know in the last week we had Boston Lloyd about a week ago, which when I opened up and saw that, I was like, man, guy was 29, you know? Wow. And now the obvious, like there were results that came out that said there's other stuff at play there, primarily other things at play. I want to say it was an issue with the aorta. But who's to say that, you know, who knows? It's just, it correlates interestingly that we've been losing so many specifically bodybuilders over the same types of things. I look at it and I go, man, it's almost like you never really know. You can get your medical stuff checked up, you can get your blood checked, and you don't know if you're totally safe or not.
Right.
So I feel like there's so much up in the air with the well-being of the competitors that the industry clearly needs to take a step back and reevaluate what it's doing. People need to, you know, what is the industry looking for in its competitors? What kind of physical look, and what do they have to do to achieve that? Are you cool if I ask you a question about it?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's pushing every year, or it's getting more and more extreme as we go?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, you look back at our bodybuilders. I mean, we had the mass era, that 80s and 90s,
right?
Which we knew we had to have that at some point, but
right.
I'm glad that's over with. But,
right.
You know, you start seeing these guys, and it's, you know, this year you've got this freak that comes out, and everybody's like, okay, where's the next one?
Right.
Who's freakier?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And that's a problem, I think.
Yeah. And then, you know, talking about the women's side of it and kind of what's going on there, and what, you know, the things that they're doing to their bodies, and the gear that they're on, and the emotional.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. Like that's really where it's troubling for me, because I love the look, but like, what are you doing to your body?
A lot of them have no idea, which
Yeah.
is sad.
Yeah.
They've got a coach that's telling them you need to do this because he wants results, so he can have a before and after, so he can advertise.
Right.
You know, and you're seeing coaches put people on diuretics, which that's what's killing people left and right.
Yeah.
And these girls that come in, they go, I want to be toned, I want to look good, I want to be in good shape, you know. And you know, it's like, hey, a lot of these coaches, they don't even consider the fact that maybe she doesn't want to come out looking like the guy in Longest Yard that was beating his head against the wall, because you know the facial structure changes. And
right.
stuff. And so I'm seeing girls get these coaches slap them on all kinds of crazy stuff, and it breaks my heart. Because it's like a lot of those things. I mean, those are irreversible side effects. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, when your facial structure goes, when your voice changes, when I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that.
Yeah. And I didn't know how rampant it was on the women's side of things, and I'm not even talking about bikini and wellness. You know, I'm not talking about, you know, the other divisions, but there's a lot of gear going on.
Oh, there's just as much
levels.
in bikini and wellness.
Yeah,
just as much as in bikini and wellness.
Yeah,
mind-blowing amounts too.
Yeah,
and like I've seen girls in bikini that are using dosages that men would use.
Wow.
You know, and it's their first years, and so you're not seeing the long-term use side effects on them yet.
Right.
You know, the bone structure hasn't changed. Maybe the voice hasn't changed too much.
Right.
But give it 6 months and you will. You know, and it's not like you go, oh wow, there's slow changes. You just look in the mirror one day and go,
oh shit.
Oh shit.
What did I do?
Man, where did I get this Cro-Magnon, you know, eyebrow ridge I could dive off of this thing?
Wow. Yeah.
But and you know, it's not that bad, but it's unfortunate. It's
right.
sad, you know.
Right, because it's you know, there's the, you know, natural bodybuilding world and things like that, but I wish there was more health-minded approach to it than, even if you're doing the gear, like doing it smart and following the science and not overdoing it just to get those quick results.
Have a doctor that you can talk to openly about it.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed how many doctors are cool.
Yeah.
And when I say cool, I mean like understanding and are like, okay, we'll help you here.
Right.
There are a lot of doctors that I feel like maybe they're just not educated on it enough that they're comfortable with it. So find one that is.
Yeah.
And you're in a big city like this with a huge fitness industry, especially in Vegas, you can find a doctor probably at any clinic that's going to take care of you, you know.
Yeah.
People don't do it. They're afraid.
Right.
And that once again falls back to things being taboo and being, you know, maybe societally frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
When really it's like, you know, it's amazing how we'll frown upon somebody for using something to progress their physical goals, you know. But it's okay to go out and get sloshed every weekend.
Right, that's okay.
You know, it doesn't matter. You know, you take all the rec drugs and all the partying and all the terrible habits and whatnot. That's fine. Let's glorify that.
Right.
But
yeah,
you know, and once again, it's just how it's public perspective.
Right.
It needs to be altered there. But
so, what right now are you open to as far as people that are watching this and want to connect with you on whatever levels? Do you coach anymore? Do you do plans?
I don't. I've considered it back and forth. If I was to take some more clients, I might take like 5 clients. And really, it would, at this point, I would charge to do it. I'm not currently doing it. The only reason I would charge is because so many times I did it for free. Mm-hmm. And never got to see the person put it into action. I would if I did charge, it would just be so that they saw enough value because they'd invested money that they would actually go and do it.
Right.
If I was to coach, I'd probably do 5 people. That way, I could give them all a good amount of time and make sure that, you know, things were done correctly. I don't want to treat anybody like just another number, you know.
Right.
But I would be reluctant to do it. I'd have to really, really want to train the person.
Okay. So then, if someone does want to reach out to you to kind of follow you to you know, maybe hop on the supplement train when your brand comes out, where can they reach you on Instagram?
Honestly, Instagram's the easiest thing.
Okay.
At the Reed Wyatt.
Okay.
It's TheReedWyatt.
Okay. And then let's show what he's done with all this talk that he's talking today.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's almost an 8-pack there. Now when were these?
About 3 weeks ago.
Wow. Impressive, man.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, man, this was great. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and I could sit here and pick your brain for hours. But we'll wait till maybe next time.
Okay.
And when you actually got your product out, and we can talk more. And yeah, man, I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it so much.
Awesome. All right, guys, I hope you're still watching because this was educational. You got to find this guy on Instagram. Until next time, like, share, and you know, talk to the problem solver if you have any problems with legal matters. We're partnering with him now on Fitness Junkeez. And until next time, Fit Fam, I'm out.